Good morning. It's good to be back with you again for another devotion. And today our devotion will come out of Psalm 61, one of my favorite passages of Scripture, and I'm sure it is for some of you. David writes, "Hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee, when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy." I want to actually take my thought today from verse 2. "From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee, when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I." But let's start with verse 1 when David said, "Hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer." In Hebrew, the word cry is a very intense word, meaning, hear my loud wailing. It wasn't a simple, now lay me down to sleep prayer. It was something from the deep depths of David's heart, of his soul. He wailed within himself, crying out to God, "I need your help. I need your attention." David was a man in his time of trouble that he didn't mind crying out to God. Here in this psalm, David felt that his troubles had driven him to the end of the earth, and his heart was overwhelmed. He felt that the waves of life had not only washed over his head, but his heart. It is often hard to pray when our heart is drowning. Words do not come easy. I can remember a pastor telling a story of certain battles, trial that he was going through, and his heart was overwhelmed. His mind was overwhelmed. He had not the words to express what he felt or what he even needed from God. But he simply went to prayer and he began to cry out, "Oh God, oh God." And God knew exactly what was hidden inside of those two words, "Oh God." This brother went on to say, throughout his life, he said, "I have won many a battle by simply praying, oh God, oh God." David here uses that, "Hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee, when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I." So overwhelmed, he cries, "Lord, I can't find the rock." He felt confused and weak. He could not find the refuge on his own. He did not have the strength that when he found it to even climb to the top of the rock. So he cries, "Lord, let your Spirit come and lead me to the rock that is higher than I." In the northern shores of England, the coastline is very rocky. In years past, many lives were lost because the rocks were inaccessible to the shipwrecked mariners. So a clergyman of one of the coast villages went and with great labor cut steps in the rock that led up from the water to a large chamber which he had carved out of the chalk cleft. Because of what this man did, many mariners' lives were saved. They were now able to climb the rocks, which were before too high for them to reach. This story is self-interpreting. We with sin, with cares, troubles, sickness, with brokenness, are like those men, drowning, overwhelmed by the storm. The rock is too high for us, but we are not hopeless. I want you to know that when you feel overwhelmed, you can do as David did. You can cry out to Jesus, who has made a way for us to reach that refuge. When Jesus Christ died, he spanned that gap. It's no longer a distance between us and him or between us and the Father. When we cry out to Jesus, he reaches down his hand and he lifts us up and places our feet upon a solid foundation. Psalms 144 and verse 2 speaks of God being my high tower. I like how David is so personal. He's my high tower. In our overwhelming circumstances and situations of life, don't forget, he is your high tower. I heard a preacher down in Florida. He lives down there, and he was telling the story of going out deep sea fishing. Him and his wife on their own boat, and they had gone out 30 miles into the ocean and was fishing. And it was time to come back in, and he started up the motor, and the motor blew. Literally, oil was going everywhere, smoke everywhere. And he knew that his little microphone would only reach 15 miles, and he explained that because of the curvature of the earth, it would only go 15 miles, and he thought, there's no way anybody on shore is going to hear me, but just maybe there'll be a ship or something close enough by, they will hear me with a stronger mic, and they'll be able to reach help for us. So he cried out, ship in distress, boat in distress, and all of a sudden, much to his surprise, he heard a booming voice come back to him over the microphone, and it said, "This is the U.S. Coast Guard. How may we help you?" And so that preacher, he told him, his condition, what had happened, where he was located. And he said, "But I have a question for you. How can you hear me? Where are you at? Where are you located? My mic can only reach 15 miles. And the voice came back saying, "Well, sir, we're on land. We're not out in the waters. We're on land. But how are you hearing me?" And he answered back again, "What you don't understand is we have a high tower. And because we have a high tower, we can hear things that you're not going to be able to hear or reach otherwise." Well, I want you to know today, when your heart is overwhelmed, don't ever let the enemy convince you that God cannot hear you. You're driven to the end of the earth. You're too far out in the deep. God cannot hear you. I want you to know He is a high tower. He is the high tower that we run into as the saints of God, and we are safe. Jesus Christ will hear your cry. He will hear your loud wailing. When your heart is overwhelmed, don't you ever fear to cry to Him. His ear is lent to you. His hand is outstretched to you. He is waiting and ready to lead you to the rock that is higher than what you and I are today. If it's one thing, our circumstances of life will come against us. They will batter us. I want you to understand the circumstances of our lives change daily. Our health can change in a moment. Our finances can change in a moment. We understand by situations of the world. One day we can go to church and be together. The next week, we no longer can gather together because of situations that's going on in our nation and in the world. Things change, circumstances change, but I want to give you a promise. The refuge, Jesus Christ, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. It doesn't say He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It said He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So it doesn't matter if you're overwhelmed today, cry. He will hear your cry. Say as David did, "Lead me, Lord, I'm confused. The overwhelming circumstances of my life is blotting out my ability to see my way. Lord, take me by the hand. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I." It doesn't matter if you feel that way tomorrow. Jesus Christ is the same. He will do it for you tomorrow. It doesn't matter if it's 5 months, 5 years away. You feel overwhelmed. Don't ever forget, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And His word declares to us, He is a refuge, a strong tower. The righteous runneth into Him, and we are safe. We can cry to Him, and He will take us by the hand, lead us to the rock that is higher than I. In closing, I felt like I needed to read to us out of Psalm 46. It's a short chapter, but my, how powerful it is. In this chapter, there is a word that is often spoken or written, and it is the word Selah. Some of you know and understand its definition, but what that means is pause and meditate. Think upon what you just heard. So let us read this chapter or these verses, keeping that word activating that word. Let's use that word literally. He writes, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. Think about it. Sounds like turmoil and trouble to me. He goes on, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The heathen raged. The kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice. The earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Once again, he says, think about it. In the midst of all the chaos and trouble, God is a refuge for us. He goes on, come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Sounds again like some turmoil and chaos, but then I like what David said. Be still. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Can I tell you today, in these overwhelming hours that we are in, we still have a refuge. And his name is Jesus Christ. If you will cry to him, he will lead you to the rock that is higher than what you are and than what I am. So glad that we have a refuge in Jesus Christ. May God be with you, and may you feel his peace today.